next time. They'll come faster. Always better to start earlier. Okay. Hi, everyone.
Could be. Hey, we definitely lost the other computer though.
What?
Hey.
Oh, let me check that out.
Because they said like their security spot.
Can you check also the Slack?
Yeah, I
If
think
you first come in and
when you're not.
Okay, perfect.
Now we just have to meet somebody.
Okay, class. Another Thursday evening. How's everybody doing? Doing good? How was your week so far? Huh? Wonderful. That's awesome. So I heard somebody bought already apes. Anybody else bought ape? Huh? You are thinking?
I sold like 2 months ago, 2 updates.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't buy any coins?
No, I didn't get it, bro. You would have been rich if you did.
Okay, cool. I hope that nobody is online because this class is in person. We call this master class. Master class, the format in master class is what we share here at UC Berkeley as a collaborative effort to break down your project together. Meaning, without you being in a rush, you will be presenting, and we take the time collectively to assess where you guys stand, think about the learnings, okay? And this is a self-reflection on what needs to be done. It's a self-reflection of understanding as an entrepreneur, where are the dynamites in your field that you need to take care of, right? Where are the bottlenecks? What are the things that might actually leapfrog you into the next phase, right? And by doing so, the goal is A, to improve your projects, okay? And the B, and this is the fundamental goal that the course has, and me as a contributor here at UC Berkeley, is to work on yourself as an entrepreneur, right? Entrepreneurship cannot be taught outside in. So do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's not about you getting a certificate, now you are an entrepreneur, right? It's more an inside out things that happens, right? And my job here is to plant as many seeds as possible so that you sooner or later, right, will be maybe waking up and say, yes, I feel it. That's me, right? And then you take basically ownership of this feelings and of the sentiments or this ripeness phase, and you start executing as an entrepreneur, or you go in direction your professional life and you have entrepreneurial skill sets. You both are totally fine, right? So the way that we are approaching this, given the fact that it's not about speed today, but it's about the learning. Okay, so always when you're going to hear a masterclass, more or less I'm going to have the same format. But now you should know me that there is always a level of surprise, and I do it always on purpose, a level of surprise, right? Because I basically try to indirectly make clear that an entrepreneurial life is not linear. You cannot plan things, okay? So who would like to start presenting first? And yeah, who is first? Who would like? Yeah, you want to go first? Fantastic, yeah. Always a great round of applause for the first ones, right? I have always huge respect for the first ones because the first one have always, let's say, this either unfair advantage, right, or this courage to be first, right? So let me hear what the audio, video.
Oh, can we make a Dan co-host?
I removed the backdrop.
Oh, is that through here?
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, okay. Let's add as.
Managed.
Just add Dan as a co-host. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
There now.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Cool.
And we want to pull up your pitch, yeah.
Okay, very
Um,
important.
Has
Very
Oh,
important.
exactly.
It's not about my advice tonight. Okay, every single one of you should be basically now breaking down and assessing where does this
Okay,
company stand.
perfect.
Okay, what are your points?
Actually, let me do a different way of
What do you
sharing.
think was lacking? Okay, and together we are repeating this process over and over so that collectively we learn. Right, that's the self-assessment that we are going to do. Okay, so please feel free to take notes. And yeah, I'm very excited. Please take it from here. Yeah.
Just give me one.
Oh, no, unmute. Sorry. Let me just double check. Okay, no, we're all good. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so 72 million people in the US have problems currently paying their medical bills. 120 million people in the US have medical debt, had to refuse one of their treatments because they couldn't afford it, although they needed the treatment, are uninsured or underinsured. And we have to do something about it. And that is the reason why I would like to introduce to you all today Health Change. We are a diverse team with complementary skills. Not all of our teammates are here today, but Rishabh is our tech lead. I have a background in medicine. Our two teammates, Melissa and Antonin, are for product management and our marketing strategy. We identified one common denominator of all the problems I've been talking about, and that is high out-of-pocket expenses for medical billing for the people in the US and all around the world. And one solution for high out-of-pocket expenses is crowdfunding. The crowdfunding market is huge, but the current crowdfunding system is not applicable for the use case of healthcare. And that is for the reason that faking one's own illness, faking another's illness, and misapplication of funds are frequently occurring frauds. And the problem with that is that there is a lack of trust within the system. And so our hypothesis is that more people would use crowdfunding in healthcare if we can implement an authentication system that leaves all doubts behind. Also, our customer research supports our hypothesis. We saw that people were talking to us and told us that they have no trust in the system and therefore they wouldn't donate money for people they don't know. But if there is trust in the system, they are highly likely to be donating money for people they don't know.
And this is where our solution comes in. What we are proposing is a digital-first blockchain platform for medical crowdfunding. Why we say digital-first is because a lot of places where the trust lacks or the visibility lacks is there are some certain processes which are still paper-based, and we need to streamline those and make them digitized for things to start moving forward faster. The key benefits and differentiators for a blockchain platform or like what we are proposing is, first of all, we'll have all users as verified through KYC and ML processes, and the funding requests will be verified. All key stakeholders will validate transactions and will be present within the network, which includes the hospital and insurance providers. We also will give them a chance to have streamlined provenance and reconciliation processes, which currently is the biggest bottleneck. And also with a digital platform which has blockchain, allows a global and equitable access for funding. We don't believe that any country or any section of people are more entitled to healthcare than anyone else. And we want to make it something that can be globally implemented. But why blockchain? A few things like I already talked about. We will have multiple stakeholders sharing and updating data. We, especially stakeholders that are very relevant in this scenario, are our healthcare providers and our insurance providers. And we need them to be able to access that data. We would require verification because, like Jacob mentioned, we need trust for people who are requesting funds, people who are donating funds, and people who are giving the treatment and the insurance. We also need provenance in terms of accessing and verifying all the documents from the get-go till the point a patient has recovered and has been moved out of the hospital. We need to make sure that all of them fall in line and check all boxes. Interactions are time sensitive, and reducing delays can literally lead to loss of lives, and the transactions interact with each other. All these fundamental areas make blockchain an advantageous use case, make it a advantageous use case for blockchain here. This is our high level architecture. What you see on the bottom is basically our backend system, which is our blockchain system here. We will be using things like IPFS for storing encrypted documents, which are basically uploaded by the patients and the hospitals in terms of what their need is, what they're suffering from. We will have our own validator networks because this should be something that isn't public to everyone to see. This is all verification. In the middle, if you see, it's our middleware, which has all our smart contract layers in terms of managing documents, managing donations, etc. And on the very top will be our user-facing or interactive websites, which interact through a Node.js or a Python middleware. This is our prototype. I'll just quickly walk you through the prototype. So whenever a user reaches our homepage, they have the two options. They can either donate money or receive money. If we proceed to create a request for receiving money, we see that the user is asked to put in some details regarding their personal information and what their need is, why they are raising funds for, is it for them or for a third person, and what are the relevant documents that they already have that support their case, right? And they choose which healthcare provider they went to so that we can submit requests for verification. Once they submit, this is where things change. Currently, the problem is that healthcare insurance providers are not within the network, but we are trying to bring them within the network through blockchain. So the insurance provider gets a request here, and they are able to see and verify the documents that are uploaded by the patient, and they can approve or reject the request by a patient. Once they approve it, only then the patient's request is broadcasted to the donors within our website. Once that is done, now let's say if I am someone who wants to donate money, I can choose the option to donate money. I can see the stories of people who are requesting money and for what reasons. I can have an expanded view. I can see how much money they have raised. And also, since it's blockchain, we can map each donation coming in and see that if it's coming from a legit source or not. The person can donate money. Our idea is to have both fiat and crypto options for donation. And then once they donate, that's the end of the user journey on a high level. And I'll take any questions that you have now. Thank you.
I think what we also can add is that we take the feedback from the jury from last week or from this week seriously. One of the feedbacks was that we might or that we should consider go into a market or into developed countries because of the data security issues, because
developing countries.
In developing countries. And so that is also something we are right now looking into, and what we try right now to build relationships to either healthcare providers or already crowdfunding platforms in developing countries so that we can bring our technology to them.
Other thing that we are still working on is our business model and go-to-market strategies, because there are a lot of legal frameworks and hurdles that we need to go through and understand, especially with the healthcare and insurance providers, to understand how they can be a part of the network and how we can take away the load, because we already know healthcare providers, not only in US and any country, are already overloaded with work. How do we make this work for them in terms of building this change? And yeah, so one thing that we were actually looking at, adding to Jacob's point, was if we do decide to go into developing countries to start with, the other good reason that we have there is the cost of treatment is actually lower. So with that cost of treatment being lower, it gives us a better leverage to start getting people in, because we have to show less money being donated. So instead of a task being probably $25,000, it can be $5,000 in a third world country. And that gives us a better leverage to start our platform and make more partnerships.
How do you think it went, the presentation?
I think we had a little bit less energy as compared to Tuesday. And apart from that, like I said, we don't have a concrete business model yet. But I hope that we were able to get across what we are trying to do, or an idea across well. And yeah.
Okay. What are your thoughts? What do you think it well?
I think given the situation that we have a 50% reduction of our team structure right now, I think it went well, and I hope that we could bring across our point.
Okay. What are you guys' questions? Yeah, go ahead, please.
I think for like thesis is really strong, and I really love the idea with the customer verification. One thing you might think, like you talk about being encrypted, upload to the blockchain. Maybe you can spend a little bit more time out there, because like there's a weakness of the blockchain is transparent, and you need to maybe talk a little bit about how are you going to solve that issue. Maybe how encrypted or like private networks, as you said, validator networks, maybe it might be a little bit good to talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, please.
So to my point of view, I think maybe on the pitch aspect, you could maybe simplify it. This is just my point of view, but simplify the blockchain section, because for me it was very detailed, and maybe you really went too much in detail for like a DC pitch, but this is just my impression. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, please go ahead.
I personally love this project. I think it's a beautiful initiative. I do think that to give like more emotional connection to the listener, you should really emphasize the fact that right now in the world there's crazy things that are happening and people need our help. And I would like definitely, generate emotion and like push forward on this.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
I think like you mentioned using like KYCML processes in your presentation, but I don't think many people really know how those work or what they are. So maybe like cut it out, or like explain a little bit about how they work.
So from what we have understood from our customer surveys and understanding, the point is the ideal place to go with, at least from the current understanding we have, we are not targeting the people on the upper 1%, and we are not targeting people in the very low. We are targeting people who have insurance, who are underinsured, or don't have a lot of pay from their insurance, because those are the people that have enough access to technology. Those have that understanding, and they have people around them who can do this process for them. Because if we try to go to the like very bottom half of the population, the problem is not even KYCML, they might not even have the access to technology to get onto the platform and come in and fill in a website and things like that.
I thought you used other processes for verification.
Yeah, right. So KYCML processes these days have been streamlined a lot, because there are a lot of third parties that we can directly integrate with, who provide options like to click and scan, and they will allow you to do that. And the point is, currently I don't see the KYCML directly happening on the blockchain. We would have to get that out of the blockchain. But once those processes are done, we create unique identities of the people on blockchain, and only then they're allowed to do transactions. If that makes any sense. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you mentioned this before, but like in terms of the donation and the payment processing and then the payout in the end, is it still like traditional, or do you do anything on chain?
No. So like I said, we are still trying to understand where our market or like business model will fit in, and who do we interact with in terms of that. So the current problem that we have identified, especially that leads to more frauds, is that the money that people raise is directly being sent to the people, right? So the problem is that is a huge area where someone can commit a fraud. Because, for example, if I go to Indiegogo, I can say I need $50,000. I get my friend to donate $10,000, right? Other people come in and they donate 5,000. I get 15,000 back. So basically I made 5,000, and I wasn't even sick to start with, let alone needing that money, right? What we are thinking of doing is we are trying to use a smart contract as an escrow. And that is where the healthcare and the insurance provider come in so handy, because only when the healthcare insurance provider verify a transaction, the money that is on the blockchain is released from the escrow to the hospital itself, right? And the part that comes in currently, where we are thinking in terms of getting the revenue is when we pay the hospital, they are getting money for a treatment that the person might not have been able to afford, right? So they're getting the additional revenue. So that is one area where we can tap in to get that money.
So just in terms of like execution of that, like that kind of requires, if you want the smart contract to automatically like transfer the money, that requires the hospital or the insurance provider to have a wallet.
Yeah.
And then like, and in terms of like how people will donate, like specifically, do you plan on them maybe like using traditional like credit card companies, and then like you like do the arbitrage of like US dollars to currency,
So,
or like create a wallet for them? Or,
the idea is to support credit cards and both cryptos to start with. And like if people are donating fiat currency, we might have to like create probably a stable coin or our own token, which gets translated into that. And that is being used to again translate and be sent to the hospital. Or if they're part of the ecosystem, then we can probably directly like, reconcile and pay them at the end of every month or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Just like an idea or suggestion, you could probably like have some kind of like reward pool in terms of business model, right? Like if you're trying to convert like a lot of the dollars into a stable coin, you could reward people for verifying things, or reward I don't know, like doctors or something like that, and then like take a cut yourself as well, like from the people that donated.
Yeah.
Just idea.
Thank you.
I think also it opens a good business model because, as you said, like there are third-party providers that transact with that, which like it turns credit card to crypto. Maybe you can do it yourself. At the end, you will get tons of cash dollars. Then you can just like do interest on it. Like Robinhood or other companies, the only business model is they like selling data, which is not applicable in yours, but you can get the interest rate because in Robinhood there's always cash in the account.
I think that's a really good idea. And I think we have discussed a bit on that too. And the idea would be once we have like a platform set up where we know people are trusting and we have hospitals and insurance providers to come in, we can also look at becoming things like a data aggregator, especially for insurance providers, because we now have data of people who have insurance but not enough insurance and what they can pay and what they cannot. And then we can use that data in terms of providing more services to both the insurance providers, healthcare providers, and the patients or the donors, right? And that is where this becomes so important, because our like data processing ledgers and the smart contract layer should be very strong in order for that to scale, or we to be able to customize that later forward. Yeah.
So we really see the project as getting our foot into the door, because like understanding how all the insurance companies interact with hospitals and being part of the system is, I guess, the first step to become a player in the field.
A little comments. I did work 3 months for an association as a donation recruiter. And so basically you're in the street and you ask people to take part emotionally to your causes, and you get money from it. And the major pain point of those people who don't want to give money is because it works through subscription. So every month you have to pay a certain amount of money, and people get, like they really don't want to do that. Maybe they're ready to put $50 on the table right now, but like engaging themselves on like a few months, a year, that's not what's really happening. So I guess as a really good competitive advantage, you can like say that you try to differentiate yourself by not having like a recurring fees, but like just a punctual payment to help those people. Because at the end you touch the same target, right? People who like are ready to put some money to help other people, but maybe there is a little part of those people who are not ready to put like recurring money.
Okay, thank you. That's a very good insight, because we already thought about a subscription model, and so it's good to hear from you that is one of the biggest pain points.
The first thing that people were saying, like they were looking in their pockets. I was like, oh no, I need like the IBAN, I need your information, and people were like, oh yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Real quick,
Yeah.
one thing you could do if you create your own stablecoin is like take some of the revenue from the arbitrage.
Yeah.
So essentially just like take a little bit of the algorithm. Unless you do like a dollar backed stablecoin, obviously you get something.
To be honest, we are still yet to figure out the tokenomics of it, because we were thinking if there is a way we can create some value for the donors as well through the tokenomics, right? Because if that is there, then that motivates people to come and donate, even if that's not, like, only charitable. Like, it's charitable plus they get some benefits. And we were looking at doing it in different ways. One way is, for example, I come from India. For any donation you make, whatever amount you make, you can get 50% of that back as a tax rebate, right? So if we can tap into these things and walk across the legal hurdles in terms of doing that, then also that gives another incentive for people who have that kind of funds to, like, to use that for a good work and then get something in return.
So could you have their donation count twice as an investment and a donation?
No, I don't think so. It will only become as a donation. But the point is, for example, if someone donates me and I give, like, we have the POAP coins, proof of attendance coins these days, which, like, get some value. Or, like, for example, if someone donates and I just send them back some tokens based on their donation, and that tokens in itself is, an appreciative asset, then maybe they can hold it or, use it. And so that tokenomics part we still have to figure out. Yeah.
I was just curious, like, this is a huge project.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, what are you planning, like, what's your MVP and what are you planning on achieving before then?
So the MVP part currently starts with at least having our blockchain smart contracts, a couple of them ready in terms of documents upload, in terms of the donation, and in terms of the transfer. And if we can get that ready, and we are trying to work with a couple of organizations within Berkeley who are in the healthcare sector, they are working with other. So we are thinking that if we can give our platform or work with them in partnership, that we provide the platform and they provide us the partnership to get our foot into the medical sector or the healthcare sector, then that would work out the best. So like I said, this is huge. So our idea is just to have, like, the minimal blockchain and the document verification and the donation setup ready. And we are still trying to figure out on what ledger we should be doing that, because that should scale in a way, like I said before. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I agree with your approach. I feel like if you complete the ledger part, you'll have enough to fundraise.
Yeah.
And get more resources.
And when we have at least one relationship that we can really point out to, and our relationship partner maybe already has some, like, front end, that's what we right now try to establish.
And speaking about partnership, do you know the Giving Block? It's a company.
No.
It's a company like doing the link between, like, Web3 companies and non-profits.
Okay.
And so I guess it might interest you to contact them.
Oh.
I get their contact.
Perfect. And that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I might chime in. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, Dan.
Hey, so I really appreciate most definitely especially the last two comments is seeing an MVP. Like, the story isn't super clear to me how you are going to show that you're actually adding value in general, right? Because right now there's a lot of moving parts, and maybe in 10 years or 20 years you'll get to this mega platform that everyone wants to use. But in the meantime, it's like, how do you survive? Even if you're just burning money, kind of become the Uber of this industry. It's how can you prove that you have something that's providing value, even if it's burning money right now, with a game plan to move forward. Another thing to think about, when you mentioned that you might, like, create your own stablecoin, that's its own company in itself. Like, it's a whole another project. So I would encourage you guys to lean more into, like the Giving Block was mentioned. Another one is Giveth. There's other people who are working on tangential issues that you might be able to lean into. And, like, for instance, your stablecoin could be USDC. It's, like, supported by everybody, something like this. So looking at partnerships on the coin side, as well as I should say the blockchain side, as well as the health side, and basically your startup might look a little bit more like a bridge, a mesh between these two that seems much more reasonable of a task.
Got it.
Just
Thanks,
a
Dan.
thought.
Thanks for your feedback. Yeah.
Cool. This is an amazing exercise. Let's break down together a couple of things that we are assessing and learning here. Okay, what are we seeking actually? What are we hearing? What are we learning? Okay. So first of all, great contribution, great collaboration, right? You see that from one assessment, from one question, we get into another one, and then we can start discovering more and more details, right? And still at the same time, what we need to consider is we need to zoom out
and understand what is it about. Okay, and in Silicon Valley, an idea is definitely worth a lot, but execution and prioritization of execution. One of the very last here, I don't know who spoke about MVP. So we went from, monetization, target audience, and said, okay, cool, this is ginormous. Great endeavor, great mission. There is a problem. We feel that there might be a potential problem to be solved, right? But there is no after tomorrow if there is no tomorrow. Like there is no pathway through your after tomorrow if we don't start tomorrow. Like what is your tomorrow? Tomorrow is resource allocation and focusing on your core, most trivial challenge. And even though we discussed tokenomics, MVP, the one or the other was assessing technology, because it's always cool to discuss even more technology, right? The human being has this urge to understand what is it you're building, right? We went into monetization. What, in your point of view, can actually totally make or break this endeavor? There is one thing. What is the one thing that, if this does not work, if this is not validated, if there is no repeatable process in that very one thing, whatever stack you're showing, whatever monetization you're showing, whatever tokenomics you are planning to have, is nonsense. What is it?
Hospitals wants to cooperate.
And as long as you don't get there, okay, Thomas, what does it mean? Do I not need to have a plan? Obviously, you need to have a plan. But because in early stage startup, what you don't have is resources, meaning money and people. So that's the that's the controversial thing as a startup. What you have is a huge mission. You have a huge goal. You want to change the world and do good, right? Usually that's the big mission, right? But what you don't have is money and resource allocation. So what you need to do is to start digging into what makes or breaks your fundamental company. So what is it that needs to be done here in terms of prioritization now?
Talk to hospitals, people within the hospitals that can help us.
Like urgently, right? Because you went ahead now and you said, okay, this is, and the challenge that we have as entrepreneurs is the more you start digging into what can be done, what could be built, right? You start in the theory, right, building out concepts rather than assessing what are the key challenges, right? Legal challenge that you're going to face. You're going to change interpolitical things. Are healthcare provider at all open to work with startups? Yes or no, right? There is one sentence say upload documents, right? I mean, uploading those kind of documents is the most delicate things, right? That you are right now asking, right? So there is a behavioral change behind it, right? So well, Thomas, does it mean that it's not possible? There is nothing that is not possible, right? But we need to assess now and say, if I bring evidences that hospitals work with me, if I bring evidences that, well, Thomas, how am I going to do this, right? So, for instance, you have actually the two challenges. You have because you are a supply and demand, right? They're kind of a marketplace. You're serving the end user, right? The patient, and you're serving also the hospital, right? So in this two-sided marketplace, always when you have two target audiences, you have to validate both target audiences, right? Which makes the use case more challenging, not impossible, but more challenging, right? So how can you validate that? What needs to be done to validate that, right? Because these questions, if you are in front of a crowd of, let's say, you want to raise money, okay, they will be saying, okay, wait a second, that's what we are seeking. The two things that the professional crowd does, investors, right, they're seeking always, first, they want to put you in a box and say, oh, this is like the other one that I saw, right? That's the first thing. And the second thing is, okay, wait a second, what is the pitfall here? What are the things that breaks this idea? And the more you can bring the evidence on both sides, create a splash page, reach out to people and say, hey, This is like fake it completely on the front end. You don't even need the back end, right? So would you upload this if? Would you upload this document? And then you can show next and say, we had 3 people that. And then the question is, where do you find them? Where do you find them? Right? But again, when you are working on your startup, evidences, which then becomes traction, right, is the most fundamental thing for anybody who is listening to you. Okay? So first, assess your core challenge. The second thing is, and nobody mentioned here, and I mentioned it the last time, okay? Start creating a posture when you present, okay? And an engagement level with the audience, that the audience feel that you are connected. Because right now I've never given, maybe I gave one mentorship because you guys contacted the one that I had, right? But the one question that I would ask, and I ask every single entrepreneur, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? What's your name? Okay, why are you working on this project?
Because I care about it, and I think it can have like a big impact on the industry that we're trying to affect.
Why do you care about it?
It's because I know a few GameFi players. I'm working on the GameFi project, and I think that like again, it's a very young field. Like it's growing in popularity, and it's only a few years old. And so I feel like there is potential to make once again like a big impact on the community there. I think the tool that we're making in particular is something that like the players care a lot about. So I think that working on this project will create a big impact. And
what did Kevin just say? What was the one thing that matters for the why?
Impact.
One is impact, yes. Can you speak up, please?
Oh, he was personally involved.
Personally involved, impact. What else? Did you guys hear it? What he said? Both things are correct.
Opportunity.
He cares. Impact, and he cares. If he would have said, "Oh, I see a lot of dollars behind it," right? So what you wanna convey is the reason why you are behind it. This conveys to me he cares. He's himself involved in this topic, so he relates to it. And why is this important? Why is this actually important? Just because it sounds well? Why is this important?
It shows that it is important to you and you'll continue giving it all.
You're continue giving it all. Do you want to expand up on that?
I just want to say because it's your why and because you see people follow your why and people follow mission and
mission, continue, follow mission, yes?
No, because there's sometimes it's going to be really hard, and if it's not deep inside, I'm going to give up before it succeeds.
And it's not sometimes really hard. In startup is you hustle, then you win the customer and you celebrate the moment, but then it's kind of, before you win the customer, hustle, then you win the customer, it's kind of a fractional moment, and then you continue hustle. So it is always very challenging, right? And now the reason why it is fundamentally important, and I talk of lessons learned myself for 22 years and an entrepreneur, is because if you're not connected with that very mission, with you're connected that this problem bugs yourself like a lot, you will be giving up. Because then it was just a task and not a mission. And by the way, this sentence kind of always when you mention things that are kind of, oh, this is obvious what the mother say. It's as obvious as when I said in maybe day 01 that team matters. By now, I guess that everybody here has experienced ups and downs and teams, right? And now you start connecting, oh shit, this dude, what he said in day 1. Back then it wasn't so relevant because the challenge wasn't there. And now so the same sentence here of being connected with the problem is fundamental, okay? Assessing your core challenge, emotions. If we would have to double click on, let's say, the presentation, like if we would have to break down what are the ingredients in this presentation and how much of those ingredients were there. There is one part that, in my opinion, was overloaded for this being a pitch.
The technical aspect is important.
Anything else?
I feel like the technical is a little too much to like the technical layer.
Anything else?
Maybe also over-explaining the product.
So what?
Maybe also over-explaining the product.
You found it too much explaining the product, which was connected with the kind of the technical, right? Kind of interest. So the engineering part, right? If you are not in a partner meeting in a VC, and a partner meeting in a VC is usually you met the associate, then you met the manager, then you met the like you built basically a relationship over a period of time, and then they say, guys, we all green lighted what you guys did. Now you'll have a partner meeting. Now for the partner meeting, okay, and maybe not even partner meeting or one, but even partner meeting or two, then they want to double click on this or things, or even for the due diligence, right? But for a presentation, which you always have to consider that if you get 3 minutes, it's already a lot, guys. Okay, I've been on stage with 60. By the way, you can Google me, right? And you see me on stage pitching my former startups, right? So 3 minutes, it's a lot. And then the question is, every single slide counts. And I will be sharing with you what helped me raise dollars, what helped me, and this is Tommaso's style, okay? But the technology part was overloaded, okay? And I kind of understand why you guys are going in this direction, because we are living right now in a phase, and this is the course, it's about blockchain, decentralized application, Web3, right? We are all into this, right? I was saying, oh, how cool is this? We are all learning, and by us basically mapping this out, we are kind of thinking this through, right? But at the end of the day, technology is just a mean to an end. Regardless if it was back then mid-frame that came in the 80s, right? Or was mobile, or was cloud computing, or AI, machine learning. So you don't want to really double click on that, right? You want to mention it, right? But if you don't have like a dedicated meeting about the due diligence, right? You don't need to mention that, right? When I started, I had 4 startups, 3 cloud computing, and 1 in mobile, right? And what I learned in cloud computing, by the way, cloud computing was not called cloud computing, right? It started out I started in 1998 doing application service providing, okay? Then it became managed service provider. Then it became software as a service. And then through software became platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. And then cloud came into play. And you know when cloud came into play? There was a major shift in the market when cloud came in. It came when Steve Jobs launched iCloud. By then, I had sold 2 cloud computing companies. Okay, and this was a 12-year period. And what I understood is that you sell the technology without mentioning the technology. So focus on the benefits. The benefits should be basically overwhelmingly high. And if I quantify that, what I like from what Elon Musk says, he always uses the term in order of magnitude 5 to 10x compared to the status quo, bless you, right? Right? So if you go on a presentation and say, we are in order of magnitude 5 to 10x, then it's always the same way. Faster, cheaper, better. That's what technology does. Technology does just that. Faster, cheaper, better, right? Okay. At the very end, you mentioned. So that's the reason why I just briefly also only mentioned that. But you mentioned yourself that you self-assess, okay, the go-to-market is missing. Like there was no go-to-market. There was, this is what we do, this is what we think, this is right. There was no, so what? Okay, so, okay, nice dinner, nice chat, but well, how the heck are you bringing this thing into market, right? And the go-to-market, the activity of you bringing an innovation to market leads you to something that also was missing. That again is core, traction, right? And by the way, guys, starting with every single Thursday when I'm here in class, you will be hearing me saying this a lot. It's just for your good. Traction, traction, traction. Like every single week, you need to bring your innovation to market and understand if you want to have soft traction or hard traction. What is soft traction? I mentioned it last time.
Sign-ups.
Yeah. No, sign-ups, things like that, not money.
What is hard traction?
Money.
So you come next week and you say, hey, Tommaso, I have 1,000 sign-ups. I say, holy shoot, that's massive, right? And then you come up and you say, Tommaso, I have $500,000 in revenue. Now, yours is very relevant, but at the same moment, it's diminished, right? And it loses its value if you come, oh, but Tommaso, this is not realistic. Why is it not realistic, guys? Entrepreneurship is not about, it's about how much you hustle and you get towards it, right? So it is realistic, okay? So the competition here, in all of you, is not about what technology you built. Now, do we want to understand the stack? Do we want to see that you have an MVP? Check, 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 yes, okay? Do we expect that you have a full-fledged system in one of the most challenging traditional industry? Not at all, okay? But what we do is expect, because this is fundamental to any startup. You know why 9 out of the 10 startups fail?
Because there is no need. There is no demand.
And what is the result of not having the need? The lack of
Market research.
traction. The result, like the quantitative result of having no need is what? I don't have traction, right? And then you reverse engineer it, so there is no need or there is no product, but you don't have traction, right? Your competition here, and your competition in the market is having traction. What is your go-to-market plan? Start mapping this out. And in fact, today, I have for you, I don't know if you know, I'm 2 times author, not to brag, but it's fact. I mean, and I brought for each one of you, a book that I brought. My first book is How to Growth Hack Your Startup. Because if I got to a certain level of, let's say, achievements in my life, is because I always cared a lot, like a lot about traction. Okay? And as a matter of fact, I mean, the older I get, the slower I get. But when I have an idea, the first thing that I do is validate it by building a funnel and generating traction, or not. But that's a validation. I don't care what hypothesis and what idea I have. I got to a point which I even say, this is very hard, but everybody's sitting. I don't care about the ideas. You can have the best ideas you want, as long as it's in your mind, right? You know when the competition starts? On the market. That's where we see the competition. That's where I see when somebody is really a hustler. That's where I see when somebody says, holy shoot, you can have a basic idea, right? And then hustling, and moving ahead, right? So traction is fundamental. For those of you who would like to have a book, I brought 1 book per team, and I'm more than happy to write the dedication to. By the way, the second one in May is called Navigating the Metaverse, which is going to be published by Wiley. Okay. So I what is the last day in class?
April 28th is the final.
Oh, and then we have the maybe I could bring you even for those who are interested. Okay. So
Just a question.
yes, please.
We're talking about traction and
Yes.
especially soft traction. Do you have any tricks in order to get soft traction? Is there any software that you have in mind where we can just create a landing page with no code at all, just to understand what's the behavior concerning an idea that we have?
You guys understand what she's asking? You guys hear it? Anybody interested in that?
Anybody say no? Your English is awesome. Your English is awesome. Anybody interested in how to get traction? Anybody?
Yes.
Anybody? That's validation right there, right? I go one by one. I'm lucky that the others are here. No, the reason why I'm asking you because in the book I have a pillar of 3 steps on how to get there, and at the very end I have a document that leads to 400 tools that I've been curating. Every single Friday I still curate tools for you to use and assess. Okay, so in order to drive any kind of tractions, bots, landing pages, email, warming up emails, the LinkedIn messages, right? And today it's not about the session about the how to get traction, but there is a chapter in there that is called Customer Advisory Board. Look it up, CAB. It's a tactic that has worked always very well for me. Okay, and I want to share it real quick here. You guys want to hear it? Yeah. Interested? This is of value. So CAB, the Customer Advisory Board, is the following situation. Okay. We are, as entrepreneurs, always in a chicken egg principle, meaning, okay, we are building a startup, right? And we need traction, but we also need to build a product and we need also money. Anybody has been there? Okay, so what is it you do? Customers don't want me because they want a product, but I don't have the money to pay for the product. Now, what is the secret? Yes?
To answer the question, you may build a prototype and present this first prototype to your potential clients, and then you make a back and forth between the prototype that you are building, the customer feedback.
Yeah, this is the lean startup framework, basically between the prototyping and the execution. This is a fundamental attitude that you have as an entrepreneur. The question here is, how do I get my first one? How do I get my second customer? How do I get my first 1,000 customers? Is there a secret sauce? What do I need to convey? I showed you now my prototype. Do you sign up? Yeah. Right. I don't know. Why do? So what is it that you can do? Introducing Customer Advisory Board. The Customer Advisory Board for early stage startup in Silicon Valley is a strategy in which you approach your target audience, okay? And you invite the target audience in being part of your mission by giving your target audience, your potential persona, either customer or consumer, roughly 8,000 shares. So when you incorporate, in you have a cap table, okay? And it is not very common for folks outside Silicon Valley to get equity from a company. Okay, why should I give equity for a company? Why should you do this? This is 8,000. By the way, 8,000 is nothing. 8,000 is, it's nothing, right? But why should you do this?
They are going to be the best ambassadors possible.
What else? Yes.
They get interested by the company and they have an interest in the company as well.
Interest in the company, ambassador. What else? Nothing else?
Validation.
Huh?
Validation.
What else?
They probably know people who are similar to them who have similar problems.
Do you see this? Do you see validation ambassador, right? So now you sit and you go at home, right? Imagine that this guy got 8,000 shares from you. He goes home and he now speaks with his wife. I say, hey, I say, how was your day? I said, my day today? Should I tell you what happened? Now it's for the first time that they are excited again. Because usually they go just the boring work, right? And they've never been invited by a startup founder from CSI to get equity and being part of a mission. This is, guys, don't underestimate. And I'm not exaggerating because I'm Italian, right? Don't underestimate how this is important for people, okay? They're part of a mission. Can you call somebody who is part of your advisory board to ask questions, yes or no?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you call somebody who does not have skin in the games and the company, yes or no? They might do you a favor once, right? So, okay, take your call. But then what is everybody? Busy, right? So this creates a chain reaction. As a matter of fact, okay, usually I do this in acceleration programs, not at school, okay? So when I've been part of acceleration programs like GSV Labs, like the Google Accelerator, and so on, and especially also the Alchemist, which is one of the most, let's say,
my point of view, renowned here in Silicon Valley, right? What we do is we give the activity. Am I annoying you? Am I annoying you? Is it interesting? No, yes or no? If it's not interesting, guys, I can leave and I can go and have a beer at dinner. Is it interesting? Yes or no?
No, I was just looking up different values.
No, I'm just saying. So what I want to say here is that when you engage with your customer, how many do you have of those customer advisory boards that lead you into the next phase? 10. Within 1 week, 10. Put yourself, I don't want to say put you yourself, okay? You can understand this is a project at university. I'm just sharing with you what is reality. Imagine I meet you at 500 Startup at Y Combinator, then I would be part of your mentorship or your advisory board, right? I'd say, guys, now it's time to get serious. Get 10 custom advisory board in 1 week. And in this book, I described the copy, how you reach out, what tool to use, okay, in order for you to engage with the customer. Even if you have not incorporated, right, you can make them, because there is always an intrinsic and extrinsic motivation of the human being. When you are outside on the market and it's real, you give shares, okay? Given the fact that it's not real, I mean, it is real, but it's not live yet, right? What you provide is, hey, I'll make you part of my DApp, I'll announce it at UC Berkeley, and if you want, you can contribute at UC Berkeley level, right? And then you call me and say, Thomas, how can we make the person part? And the person can come and watch you pitch when right? This is of value. That makes sense?
Yeah, my question is you do this technique when those people are already customer or to attract customer? Because I feel like if you do it like post sales, it can be great because, as you said, people become ambassador. But if you do it pre-sales, I feel like there is a conflict of interest where like people are, like you said, intrinsically like internal of the organization. They want to believe in it. They want to buy it. They're not. Maybe it was a day you're not looking at it, then like their own judgment gonna grow again and be like, I don't want this product.
What is everybody's thoughts here? What are your thoughts? What you say? Any thoughts?
I think it provides an external motive to the person. For example, you mentioned that they had a normal day, right? And now they're coming back and they have something new to look forward to, something they can be a part of. And in the long term, if they believe in it, that can actually lead them to a lot of value. I would like to contribute to something like that.
Yeah, also I feel like they will be motivated to help you improve the product or point out like which part of the problem that they actually want solving, instead of just, hey, marketing to other people just because I'm part of the board.
I have a question actually. So should I ask after this or?
Okay, go ahead. Oh, after the so let's answer. Okay, let's answer. Yes.
So for me, the answer is pre-sale. So like as everyone said, like incorporate the customer into the beginning of your product. And so
it's not even pre-sales. There is no sales. Like it's about the product, right? And then it depends what you are conveying to this person. You say very clear. What's your name again?
Alicia.
Alicia. I'm a UC Berkeley student. I'm working on transforming the world, and you say what you do by the benefits, right? And I have just 2 spots available for the customer advisory board. What do I expect from you, Alicia? I expect 3 things. First, that I have a 30 minutes call with you every single month. Secondly, that you represent me on your LinkedIn and you introduce me also to somebody else. And third, that you make proactively contribution and how we can become better. Is this okay for you? Yes or no? Yeah. No. Okay, next one. You see what I'm saying? Like it is important for you to be very clear, and it's not sales, because sales is once you have a repeatable process, you're still at the beginning. And the beauty of actually the advantage that you guys have here is that decentralized application, Web3, blockchain, cryptocurrency, the essence of it is community. The essence of it is sharing. The essence of it is collaboration. The vibe today that we have in this new world, right? It's not one winner wins all, but we all share. And if you convey that, right, then you get somebody on your board. And once you present it, you say, click, look at who I have. There was somebody who spoke with Chris Peralta, which is a friend of mine. Who spoke with Chris Peralta? Chris. Somebody had Chris Peralta on his slides. Oh, the startup is not here at all. Okay, cool. So, but there is this startup. I don't remember who it was.
I think it was Mona Lizard or something like that.
I think it
Mona
was
Lizard.
Clutchy.
Is Clutchy here?
Or Clutch.
I think it was
Clutch.
I think it was Clutch, yeah. So, and first of all, I know Chris as a mentor that he knows the game very, very well. He might have suggested actually that, right? And so he became part of it. So when he when Clutch, when the company shows that, and I have 10 people at my advisory board, boom. Is this a form of traction, yes or no?
Yes.
That makes sense? Okay, we have, do we want to run through another one, even though we have just 15 minutes? Yeah, or do we want to continue just assessing a couple of questions, yeah? Yeah, okay, go ahead. Then we do questions, okay? Should we ramp up with questions? Are you guys okay? The only, but again, it's just about time, right? We will not be able to have every single startup present, right? But when you read master classes, okay, you will be having startup presenting. And maybe in the future, what we're going to do is we say, okay, we are going to do maximum 50 minutes. So 5 minutes presentation, then 10 minutes of assessment. And so we can run through, let's say 3, okay? Do we agree? By the way, do you mind just for the next time say this is the format, right?
Yeah.
We can break it down now.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. Questions?
I was just adding to like what we discussed when we we're talking about, the board and why people would contribute. I mean, I just wanted to add like, I don't know. I mean, if you look at it, there were people here willing to help us, right? Like, talk to us about what we can change or what, like within just when we presented, right? So, I mean, if that is happening, on top of that, if we give like some benefits to the people, something to be a part of, I think that will make people come and contribute itself.
Being part of, not being pitched at.
Yeah.
Being part of, not selling to. Okay? This is, and by the way, you see that now it becomes more and more and more nuanced. What becomes nuanced? Yes?
I think the vision of the customer.
Okay, what else becomes really nuanced?
How do you get like initial traction?
Okay, what else? What is becoming really nuanced?
The thought process we have to put behind everything.
Becomes really nuanced, the capability on how you express things. In fact, in traction, what I'm describing in the book, okay, what you as an entrepreneur must develop as a weapon is your communication skills, okay? And in fact, the #1 chapter is what's called nuanced communication. Now, what does it mean, nuanced communication? I don't want to know, present you the book, which was way. By the way, if you want to, I can share with you even my talk that I have in this book, right? So you can, if you want to review that and not read the book. But nuanced communication is, there are strategies on how you convey what you do, which I call a trigger-based strategy. Within a value proposition, okay, the way that you convey things, you would like to have 3 to 5 specific triggers, okay, that the human being starts basically saying, oh, that's me, oh, right? And this is usually a trigger for whom you do it based on a role. For what location is it worth doing it, a geolocation, okay? What specific problem are you solving in a specific either industry or department, okay? So these are 3, 4 things that if you are capable of, in a nuanced way to convey it, okay, rehearse or convey it, right? Then you start becoming, holy shit, this guy knows exactly what they're doing, right? And in fact, when I start out reaching out, for instance, customer advisory board or even customer, guys and ladies, there is no coincidence the way that you talk with your potential target audience. It's not their gut feeling. Prepare. Be really well prepared. Well, Tommaso, prepare and then you learn, obviously, and you readjust. But be very well. What's the framework? I like to call it even be almost scientifical that you way that you communicate. Okay, Tommaso, I'm talking now with the hospital of Kaiser Permanente. Where are they based? Oh, they're based here in San Mateo. What department are you talking to? I'm talking to the Department of Innovation. You think that and then what role are you talking? I'm talking with the Director of Innovation. Oh, cool. What responsibility has the Director of Innovation? Let's start thinking about that. What is their daily role, right? How is the person measured success? Because if you understand the person's definition of success, you then start saying, hey, by the way, I have something that is super cool new for you, right? I'm confident you have seen a lot as an innovator, right? That's the reason why. And so you start basically walking in your customer's shoes and making clear that you understand the person, right? You know why entrepreneurs are actually not doing that, not assessing that granular, the target audience, not building a scientific approach of communication. You know why? Can you think of something?
They are shy or kind of afraid of the rejection.
Okay, anything else?
Because they think like doing it on the spot is better.
What?
Because they think doing it on the spot is better.
Going around?
Do you think they think that like doing everything on the spot is
Oh, doing everything on the, and why do they think doing everything on the spot is better?
because they think like they can engage with the audience better.
I feel more natural to them.
I guess it's because entrepreneur wants like quickly everything. And
So this is
all
us.
of it really
We
fast.
hustle, exactly. We hustle the entire day, right? Oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, right? And then not only it's going to be okay, I manage that. Hey, Tommaso, I manage that. And I already pitched. I'm at UC Berkeley. Well, who do you think I am, right? So you have this level of confidence. And then on top of that, well, Tommaso, I went to bed at 2 a.m. in the morning and I woke up at 6. I don't have any more time to do and prepare anything. And that's exactly the issue, right? That you don't prioritize, you do not prioritize the importance of copy and nuanced communication. You don't build the priority based on that. And if you look at, if I can show you, maybe next time I'll show you, remind me of that. But I can show you when I start approaching the market, I scientifically create Excel sheets or Airtables, right? Database of different copies, right? That go from, row A to row ZZ, right? Because I want to test all of them, and then I measure traction. And before I actually speak with the very first person, I prepare 2-3 weeks. And some people say it's exaggerated, but then it becomes scientifically to me, right? It's almost mathematical then to me, right? It's no coincidence. Because it's okay, I tried this, and it's called A/B testing. I tried that, right? So before you actually approach somebody, prepare yourself. And in the book, I describe exactly what does it mean, what does a sentence entail, what is the copyright. I make a lot of examples of it if you guys are interested. Why? Because this increases the conversion rate. And in business, it's all about conversion rate. Conversion rate of traffic, conversion rate of customer, conversion rate of communication, conversion rate of winning new partners, conversion rate of win, right? And increases the conversion rate. And that's what we always have to optimize for, right? Does it make sense? Any other questions? Yeah.
I have a two-part question.
Yeah.
The first one is going back to the customer advisory board. Is
Yeah.
it the same as focus group?
It's not the same as focus group, but it can be part of the focus group. Actually, the customer advisory board can become the initiator of the person helping you building a team within the company. So you approach one single person, right? Why should this person join? What are the attributes of this person that might become a customer advisory board? The person needs to understand first your problem. Okay, well, how do I know if the person understands my problem? You have to reach out in a way that you can assess the attributes of the person. Let me be more concrete. Facebook gives you filter possibilities, right? Based on attributes, but is it granular enough? Question. LinkedIn gives you very good filter attributes, right? Based on territory, based on roles. Who is here in B2B? B2B? I know you guys, B2B. Who else? B2B? Anybody else? Whomever is in B2B, business to business. So meaning you interacting and winning customers, right? Now you can ask me, sorry me using actually these terms, right? But so business to business, and then there is business to consumer, B2C, okay, business to consumer. And then there is another one which nowadays is also very relevant. You might be hearing, especially in crypto, it's D2D, it's developer to developer, especially when it's around community and development. So LinkedIn, right? Use LinkedIn to reach out, right? and make basically the potential customer. Actually, regardless if you are in B2B or B2C, for the customer advisory board, it is a good tactic to use actually LinkedIn, right? Because you want to find a person on LinkedIn that understands your topic, that you don't have, like if the person, that's the reason why my first question when I talk with a customer advisory board, I always ask him or her the following. Do you know and understand that this problem, yada, yada, yada? I just start right away with the problem. Because if the person tells me, oh no, tell me more about that, I'm like, I don't actually. No time, I'm busy, yeah. Because you are not there to educate the person. You need help, right? You need support, right? You are seeking the, oh yes, absolutely. I've been in this business, right? So this is what you're seeking, right? And then you say, well, the reason why I'm reaching out is, yeah.
Can this be considered as a trigger point that you talked about? Can this be considered as a trigger point which you talked about earlier?
What do you mean with trigger point?
Like you mentioned, like there are different type of trigger points that you like to use, right? So
Right.
like you reaching out to someone and like who has knowledge and then you explaining a particular problem. Can this be considered a trigger point?
Yes. One of minimum 3, right?
Yeah, this is the second part of my question. So how do you deal with the investor relationships when you have two startups at the same time? I'm assuming that 2 cloud computing startups are existing at the same time back then. So how do you deal with the investors?
Sorry, how do you deal with
investors?
Investors?
Yeah.
Yes.
So because based on my experiences, sometimes an investor wants you to focus on only one thing.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes. How do you deal with the conflicts, like a competition, because you have 2 startups at the same time in the same industry, right?
If you are an entrepreneur who can do 2 things in parallel, you don't do it with investors, at least not the second one. You start out always with one. Like I had 50-50, like 2 of my startups, 0 investments, and then the 2 of my startups with investor, right? And while I had the 2 startups without investor, I had both startups, not both in parallel at the same time, right? But once I had basically a company that was working very well, I started investing in my other company. So I was my own investor, started my own, right? And it's a very legit question. I would not invest in an entrepreneur that has another thing going because I need the maximum attention. Not I need, but the project need maximum attention, right? Or you are so successful, that's the only exception, that you are making me a favor as an investor to come in when you're wrong, because then I don't care. But if you need the money, then I would not invest. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like you're so successful, say, you know what, I'm just taking in Kleiner Perks, A6C, Animoca brand. I allow you to invest because it is part of my strategy, right? But I'm kind of, already up and running. I actually don't need the money, and I raise it on my terms. And by the way, if by Friday the money is not on my bank account, I don't want you to check numbers. But that's very, very rare. But it's a very legit question because it can happen right now because we are in a very intriguing phase. So it can happen right now. Yep.
Sorry, go ahead. Are the customer present in the board the same than the one we do interview with? Can the people be the same?
The customer, can you repeat again? So the customer advisory board, is it the same as who?
As the same people we talked to during the interview to validate our assumption in the first place.
Okay, so let me zoom out a second. What is the purpose of a customer advisory board? What is the purpose?
To receive feedback when you don't really have too much progress.
So that's how you want to assess. So you want to assess the person in the ability to guide you, right? So customer advisory board is this. Hey, Tomaso, do you have 30 minutes? Can I talk with you right now? Right? Or, hey, Tomaso, it's a good time to chat because we agreed actually that we are talking right now, right? So that's what you want to know. I have a couple of questions. These are my 3 questions. And that's what you do, right? So the person is somebody that you don't have just on your deck. And you say, oh, I have, it's not decoration.
right? It's somebody who adds value to your business case, right? Now, is the person that adds value to your business case potentially also the person that is part of your focus groups? Absolutely, yes. Actually, the customer advisory board could be a person who works in a company, and then you approach and you say, hey, can you help me put together 3-4 of you guys, and let's do a 30-minute assessment, okay?
Just to get a general idea, when we talked about 8,000 shares, generally how much percentage of the company does it represent? How much
Usually
do
you emit 10 million shares, and then you give them 8,000 shares. That's 0.000. Yeah, you will have follow-up questions?
Yeah, just like in the same subject, would you advise to have like serve as the customer advisory board and to have some like eye figures in the space you're trying to conquer, to give them also some small shares of your company to be ambassadors to? Like, for example, if I'm launching a gaming company like Clutchy, for example, I can try to convince the person who came to talk about the Animal brand or something like that to give him like 10,000 shares. So, but then he's maybe more willing to talk about us in his meetings or things like that, or be ambassadors.
So the terms and expectations for the customer advisory boards, right? They vary depending on how much involvement do you think that the person can give you, right? And you can kind of tune this, right? Obviously, if you overstretch it, right, you have the fear to lose the person, right? There is a good document that actually is not customer advisory board, but it's an advisory board document that is done by the Founders Institute. You want to Google Founders Institute advisory template, something like that. You can Google that. Founders Institute advisory template, right? And what you find there is it's a term sheet for an advisory board, which is different than a customer advisory board. Okay. But what you see there is almost a very granular approach on how you structure the terms for somebody who supports you, right? How many hours? What do you expect, right? It gives you basically a framework for you to then copy paste some structural elements and bring into the customer advisory board, right? Yes.
So my question was, so how do you determine how many shares do you create? Is it an arbitrary number, or is it like, how do you determine that you issue like 10 million?
Okay, so first of all, there are kind of lessons learned in Silicon Valley, right? Which this is one of those, right? Which, I mean, 12 years ago when I came here, I didn't know, right? So it's super legit question, what is what, right? Now, the other thing is really mindset, and what is your mindset? And what I like, this is me, okay? I'm sharing, Tomo, you asked me, so I'm sharing with you my thoughts, okay? Are you a person and an entrepreneur that comes from a mentality of abundance or scarcity, okay? And this is what I learned, guys, okay? In the moment that you're starting out a startup, you need a lot of support, like a lot, okay? People go, you don't find customers, you don't build the right product, you're kind of raising money. So you need a lot of support, okay? In order to get a lot of support, you usually think you need to have money. And yes, check, if you get the money, then you pay people. But in many cases, the majority, 99.9%, you don't have money. So how can you achieve your mission and how can you get support? The only value that you have is your equity. Oh, Tomas, I don't want to give away too much equity. Wait a second. This is a mentality, to me, a mentality of scarcity. You know why? This is what I learned. You have always two outcomes in startups. You either win or you either learn. If I die, I failed. As long as I live, I learn. That makes sense what I'm saying? Right? So if you win and you give somebody a good chunk of equity, for instance, it depends on what phase you're in, okay? That's the reason why I read this document, okay? But if you give somebody a good chunk of equity and you make it big, do you have an enemy or a friend for life? This is the first person that as soon as the person gets the money wired on the bank account, they will call you. The first thing they'll say, thank you so much. And the second thing, by the way, can I give you the money back so that you invest again in you in your next thing? Does that make sense? That's what I learned. If you lose, do you think that the person is making fun of you? It's not making fun of you. It's say, okay, I dedicated all this time. And I remember back then at the beginning that Tommaso tried to negotiate with me the couple of cents. They don't want. So you lose, you didn't make it, and on top of it, you had also a very poor approach of negotiating it because it was important for you to add 0.1 more. That's not the right thinking. This is my 2 cents, okay? But be very careful. Every mentor that you have has its own opinion. Whatever you don't like, okay, just toss it. Does that make sense? So filter what you don't like. I'm sharing with you my behavioral approach. And when I'm at the beginning and I have somebody which is really strong that I need and I want, I don't care about the equity because it's not about the 1%, 2% more or less. If you make it, what does it make you? The one having 1% or 2%. That's my mentality. Okay. Did I answer your question? Okay.
No, my question was more like, so how do you determine like how many shares you will?
Okay, read this document, please, because it's exactly giving you a framework on how you determine this. Okay, and there you see what phase you are in the company and how many shares you might give. There is no fixed amount. This is not linear. Okay, that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, cool. Guys, was this valuable?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the questions. Thank you. And who would like to have a book, please feel free to come. And one per team, please, yeah?
Okay, and code word for today is feedback. Feedback. That's today. Awesome. Thank you guys.
Do you want to go over this one,
Of course.
Okay, cool. We already have it done. Alicia? Maybe become famous one day and that's everything, but it's an NFT or something, right?
Okay, well, thank you all. Bye, everyone.
We don't have any